Welcome, everyone. My name is Paul Schneider. Thanks for joining us today. I'm the head of product marketing with Domino, and today we'll be diving into one of the biggest hidden challenges and opportunities, I think, facing L&D teams, and that is collaboration. I learned early on that efficient collaboration is critical to an L&D team success. Early in my career, I managed a professional services team, and like anyone, I had my share of challenges. But there were two particular ones that pertain to today's conversation. The first was when I went to assist team members who needed help with different aspects of the content they were working on. In some cases, this wasn't too hard, as we were in the same office and I would join them in their office and we would work through the issue. In other cases, we were hitting a deadline and we're both working from home. We would then share files back and forth. And in both cases, the efficiency and efficacy was limiting. Wondering if you perhaps experienced something similar. The second was a recurring problem, how to gather and process feedback during multiple QA and review and SME cycles. While we had some very organized project managers and some great spreadsheet templates, it was error prone and very time consuming. And me being who I am, I developed my own quality assurance software that really enabled more efficient real-time collaboration and tracking. And this resulted in a huge drop in the overall time spent by everyone involved in the review and a lot less mistakes and confusion. Fortunately, there are some pretty good options out there that can help you improve your team's collaboration and achieve similar results. We're going to take a look at those use cases and more as we explore the pearls and payoffs of collaboration. Thinking of collaboration, it really isn't just a text or process conversation. It's a strategic one. So today we'll start by examining the costs of poor collaboration, along with some key issues that we find in learning and development. And then we'll shift to what good looks like, including a deep dive into some specific practical improvements and potential opportunities. Finally, we'll explore the business case and not just why collaboration matters, but why it's really an imperative. Why does collaboration matter? One of the key benefits of collaboration is the transfer of knowledge and exponential increases in skills across all team members and the folks that are participating. The study quoted was on the impact of an absence of collaboration and knowledge sharing. Put in another way, the amount there is the equivalent of wiping out the entire L&D budget of about 200 mid-sized enterprise companies every single year. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Paul, if you knew what our budget was, you would be saying it's the equivalent of 400 mid-sized companies. The critical aspect is collaboration can't be just a buzzword. It's a business driver. When teams collaborate effectively, knowledge flows freely, decisions happen faster, and learners benefit sooner. In this study, PlanView found a surplus of inefficiencies when it came to various aspects of collaboration within projects. The end results, of course, were tremendous delays in project completions, and team members left feeling like there was a lot of waste of time waiting on other team members and trying to find resources, and the team was working on, and more problems. As learning professionals, I suspect that this is probably an all too familiar situation. Yet, despite its recognized value, many L&D teams are still struggling with collaboration, as noted in the poll there. Let's face it, we're often dealing with sequential handoffs, version chaos, and a lack of shared tools. These gaps slow us down, waste resources, and make it harder to scale. And as team leader myself, I too experience these same challenges. Fortunately, later, the benefits that when some of the areas were ultimately addressed through better tooling and improved processes. If we look to enabling collaboration, it is beneficial to your employees' growth. That's another key reason to do it. But it really shouldn't be seen just as a reward. It's really critical for keeping your creators engaged. In this case, there was a review of various studies on key aspects of team building, and one found that 3 out of 4 employees need strong collaboration to stay engaged. They need it. And if that experience is missing, folks tune out or log out. For L&D leaders, we are always competing to attract and keep a team of designers and developers. Creating that friction-free teamwork situation really then falls outside of the nice to have bucket and squarely into your retention strategy. These resources and references are part of the presentation. You can have linked to those resources later on when you look at the presentation. So ultimately, what is the alternative? Well, a good start in a collaborative model where teams co-create in real time. The reviews happen in parallel, and a single source of truth keeps everyone aligned. These are some of those foundations for addressing many of the common complaints of team members, which will not only improve several of your other key metrics, but most importantly, is going to enable your team to scale and retain talent. Let's look at some high performance content collaboration and what can occur when it happens. Collaboration is a performance multiplier. It not only improves your ability to deliver solutions beyond what any one individual could accomplish, but also serves to help all team members improve. Now, while President Kennedy said, "A rising tide lifts all boats," the best companies don't just encourage collaboration, they pay for it. Whether it's through improved tooling or rewards, ultimately they see the results of these investments compound. We got two great stats here that make me think of the classic situation where you ask two people whose fault it is and both people point to the other person. Leadership teams see that a lack of teamwork and poor collaboration are often at the root of project failures. Oh, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that returning to the office isn't a panacea to solve that problem. Of course, on the flip side, the team members cite poor leadership and support for teamwork as the root of problems in poor teamwork. I think of collaboration as a force multiplier. When you remove it, of course, you get the opposite, and projects are going to crater exponentially. And if instead you support it with collaborative-based tooling and purpose-driven incentives, that the performance can really explode. In the case of Patagonia, they saw a 5-fold improvement with their collaborative changes. A survey of projects, and they found that teams wasted more than 20 hours per month trying to overcome collaborative challenges. As a result, 54% stated that they missed deadlines, and 26% cited that there were budget overruns, primarily resulting from poor collaboration. And in L&D, I suspect that every one of us has experienced the impact of inefficient collaboration, and many of us have borne the brunt of these delays, often having to put in extra time and make up for them and not allowing our schedule to increase even though there are other delays. And we've all seen that the missed deadline doesn't just result in equal delays across teams and individuals. Scheduling and shared resources and a need to realign often results in exponential costs and time delays. Even further, these delays can be extended beyond our own departments because many L&D launches are the gate to wider business initiatives, such as a product release or regulatory updates. There's a ripple effect of on time and on budget, or in this case, not on time or on budget. And that can be felt throughout the organization. One small glimpse into that exponential effect of improved collaboration can be found with a switch the Society of Actuaries learning team made several years back. They recognize many of these same problems that we have just discussed and talked about. And they knew that they needed a learning development environment that had collaboration in its DNA. And being a measurement-focused organization, they had long established benchmarks of life cycles in their content development process, which helped lead to them identifying some of the key problem areas in collaboration. In their case, two of their most problematic areas were some of the same ones that folks cited earlier. It was in multi-person content review cycles and in repeated manual search for updating and distribution of resources such as graphics and PDFs or terminology glossary terms that appeared in multiple courses and multiple times throughout those courses. When they implemented their new solution, it enabled really two key changes for them. It provided live inline collaborative review cycles and a central repository of searchable and reusable assets. And of course, being a measurement group, the end result is once fully implemented, total time spent in content review cycles was cut in half. And the development and maintenance cycles for content development was reduced by a fourth of the original effort, 25%. So yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's take a look at key areas where teams like yours could choose to turn their focus on. Collaboration gap in learning and development. The nature of learning and development requires collaboration with internal and external teams. And remember, it's a de facto standard. It's not something you can avoid. This ranges from working with your suite, compliance officers, your internal team. They all need to review the content, ensure the accuracy, help develop the content. Some of these core issues that we see facing learning is compliance windows, which close very quickly, and outdated courses can, and literally in some cases, invite fines. There's a lot of email ping-ponging back and forth that can result in stealing delays from every work sprint. A single source of truth becomes really critical when creating and maintaining and tracking assets, because mistakes and misses can be consequential and exponential. The learning experiences do actually matter, as we saw earlier. We need to provide learning that is consistent, engaging, and efficient. And detriments in collaboration directly impact each of these factors. Let's take a real world case here. Discover Financial Services. Their banking regulation team used to juggle separate classroom, virtual instructor-led training, and e-learning versions of every course. And naturally, this meant that a single policy tweak would result in 3 different designers hunting through copies and republishing to multiple LMSs. They moved to Domino One, and where collaboration, that's been part of the DNA from the beginning. And with this change, they were able to co-edit in the same project for multiple different output designs, single sourcing. Now, when they make one change, they start to see the ripple effect across hundreds of shared lessons instantly. Their designers hailed this as a game changer. And of course, the regulators loved it because they had a single audit trail. And that's just one way this type of change can impact your organization. Sequential handoffs. When you think about it, there's so much time lost in nearly every full work week, and time that could be used to be building better storyboards and improving your content instead of just getting it out. If you're in multi-time zone global situation, or even across the US, that 30-minute quick catch-up sometimes can often lead to multi-day delays while your different groups align on their next steps. And when you break it down, it's clear that these sequential handoffs aren't just inconvenient, they're really a schedule killer. If your team can establish a more fluid continuum of collaboration, this can lead to ongoing micro corrections of communication and greater overall efficiency. Ultimately, folks are left actually being able to do the work and not waiting for other folks twiddling their thumbs. In another case, industry data showed that better collaboration alone can shave almost half the schedule off a typical project. If we look at another specific example from Lockheed Martin, measured productivity improvement after switching to Domino One, and they were taking full advantage of that collaborative workflow and elements for their F-35 maintenance program. They had 3 defense contractor groups, and in the past, this led to various delays. However, by leveraging the newly available increased collaboration efficiencies, they were able to slash their update cycles from 45 to 20 days. What if that 55% acceleration applied to your content backlog? You have to ask yourself, what would it mean if you could publish every course you did 3 weeks sooner? How could you make courses better or actually get more content done? Gartner pegged the bill for poor data quality at $12.9 million per year per organization. Collaboration can lead to poor data quality, and that's just simply, it's not people's budget, it just evaporates. And one driver of lost productivity is the pure hunting time. And some of you cited this as a key problem for yourself. McKinsey found that knowledge workers burn about 20% of every week just searching for the right file. The cost is just the visible tip. When one stray PDF leaves or its outdated video slips through, the course instantly goes out of compliance. And now we're talking about audit findings, reputational damage, and even regulatory fines. When we look at the comparison on the scatter plot, the blue dots represent a typical project managed through disconnected folders, different versions, ballooning quite exponentially. Where the green dots are that same size projects, but in a single source repository where the curve stays flat and predictable. There's fewer copies, fewer opportunities for errors. And it's pretty clear having a central single source of truth, which the team has permission-controlled access, can lead to real updates and efficiencies in project development. If we look at the impact of rework, which is another case, this was a Bluefire study, and their results on lost time hunting was a bit less severe than the previous, but with the average worker losing about 10% of each week hunting for files. But then when the content wasn't found, they spent another 14% redoing the work, which likely had been done in some form or another. And this results in multiple days lost every month, which could be applied to new items, improvements of existing content or cross deployments, or targeting specific audiences with unique variations of that content to really improve the impact of the content for different target audiences. In this case, there was another large pharmaceutical company, and they had experienced some of the same types of issues over and over again until they declared it was time for a change. Now, fast forward, post-implementation of a central reusable repository with collaborative workflows as their single source of truth, they were able to double their output in 12 months and then tackle improvements that had lingered, such as enabling multilingual support across all 45 different languages that they supported, which naturally led to that content having a bigger impact across the organization. Let's look at some practical aspects right now. These are 6 of the collaborative tooling areas where we have seen the most impact. Fully integrating these capabilities into your team's workflow is key to getting collaboration right. In doing so, the teams can realize faster review cycles, shorter time to impact for their learning, and simply fewer headaches. Collaboration isn't just about speed. It's really about working smarter and delivering results. Let's look at author assignment and how that impacts. The author, you can come in and assign multiple authors to individual projects or teams of users. And when you invite them in, they're actually assigned to that specific project. That's an important thing because it ties into their role and what they have access to. The last thing you'd want to do is assign them to all the content, and then they have to look through it. It's confusing. Perhaps they're editing things. There's a question about, hey, we're using, in this case, it was Vector LMS or an LMS. The great news is that all these can apply to virtually any LMS, so don't worry about that. In this particular case, we want to think about assigning multiple authors. And so having the ability to go, oh, it's checked out. Maybe I request access from someone else, or I can check in a page on a project. So fellow author or 5 authors can come in, click on edit, and take a look at the page. But even better, as you can see, there's also versions available where folks can come back and take a look at a particular version of that course. Because one of the things I always found annoying about collaboration is sometimes my colleagues weren't on the same page as me. Sometimes that was my fault. Sometimes it was someone else's. But this enables everyone to work together and have a fallback if we weren't on the same page. Another great thing is something that we call page indicators. And in this case, you're working on a bunch of different pages, but perhaps you want to tell someone, hey, you're a graphic designer, you focus on the yellow pages. Hey, you're a content expert, you focus on the green pages. So you can just tag different pages. And different systems will have different ways to do that. In the case of Domino One here, you can actually just tag it with a color. Another way to provide information, particularly helpful if you create templates, is to have instructions integrated into the project. Domino One has a great ability there where you can go to the settings of a topic and set it, as you saw, to be unpublished. You'll get the little indicator that is grayed out, and then you as an author can provide all sorts of instructions that your fellow authors will see immediately when they open the project and not have to worry about, oh, wait a second, I need to remember to delete this before I go to publish that content, because it's just set to not be included with the publish. Again, another great way to communicate with your team asynchronously. We mentioned before page versioning, and that's a great way where you can collaborate safely. You have versions when you check in the page that you can roll back, you can preview that particular page, take a look at the different versions, see what they look like, either restore that entire page or individual elements of that page, and brings a copy back into your course that you can look at, either copy from, remove the other page, or adjust. The other case is that micro change. In every case, somebody deleted something, or heaven forbid you did yourself, and then a couple weeks later, you want to undelete it. There's a recycle bin that is persistent throughout the life of your working with the project. So you could easily look at that recycle bin, bring back that video that we just restored there. And it doesn't matter if you deleted it or your colleague deleted it. It's all good. It's all available to bring back at any time. You don't have to worry that it's 30 seconds later or a day later or 3 months later to go ahead and bring that back. This is something that many of you cited as a real problem, and I've seen it time and time again. As I said, early in my career, I had a big problem with this too, and it can speed up your improvements. And this is real-time review. And part of it is controlling the review. The last thing you want to do is have people provide you feedback outside of your schedule. You don't have time to address that. So right within Domino, you can set those settings, and then you can invite folks in. And of course, the nice thing too is you often have some of the same folks over and over again. So you can invite a team of users. And if there's an exception, as you saw, you can invite an individual user. They're going to be able to see that review, they'll log in, and then they can launch that review and provide specific comments. And let's take a look. It's live. You don't have to worry about publishing it or resetting the review notes. If you made a change 2 minutes ago, they're going to see that change. They can come in there, put a comment on that page so you know what they're talking about, what they want to change. Or even better, especially in today's world where there's longer pages that are responsive, they can actually turn on inline comments, scroll over any particular element, and add a comment. That's going to tag it or put a sticky note on that specific element. So you don't have to spend that wasted time back and forth understanding what the heck were they talking about on this very long page. What makes it even easier is if we look at the fact of some of those inline elements have complex things going on, like a video, and there's a lot of minutes in that video. Well, if they go ahead and put a comment on the video, Domino is going to be really nice about that and do an auto timestamp on that. And it looks like let me go ahead and hit play on that again. Sorry about that. We went a little bit too fast. We go back so we can see that. And so in here, when you actually scroll over and select the video, it's going to automatically, when you hit new comment, add in a timestamp. And so it's going to automatically have your comment and let the author know that, hey, there's a comment at a particular time. That's, again, just an easier way for the author to know exactly what you're talking about. And there's other objects that are like this. So, for example, a software simulation can be quite long with many different steps. So if you're playing that software simulation as an author or as a reviewer, when you're looking at it, there's going to be several different steps. And when you're commenting on something, it may not be clear that it was on step 3 or 4. So when you're playing that and putting that comment in, just like put in a minute for video, it will actually let the author know that in this particular case, you were on step 3. They put that information in. So again, a great way to communicate and reduce email back and forth. Huge time saver. Then, of course, another big time saver, and I see this all the time because fortunately now we've started to see some different tools that have review capability, but it's a separate integrated tool. So when they go to edit, as we are now with an author, they don't see that on each page there's X number of notes available, and that they can't just go right in the authoring environment and hit show comments as you see here, and it will highlight those comments. You can hit show element. It automatically zooms right to that element, highlights it there. Within the tool, you can actually specify information, including priority or type. So you can put in some additional data so you know how to go ahead and organize that. Of course, that's going to tie to your individual process. So you know, hey, is this just a personal opinion? Hey, we're not going to do that. It's out of scope. And people can get that information communicated very easily. The next core area to look at here is that idea of single source of truth instead of multiple copies, and being able to reuse an element. That is being able to have a graphic or something in multiple courses, update it once, and it's updated everywhere. It's not a central repository that you're copying from. If we take a look at this particular case, this is a central repository of the different projects. Yeah, people can organize it in categories, business units, collections. Through permissions, you can assign it and mirror that. So when you have a large amount of content, you're not just searching through it. You have some idea. You're looking at particular projects when you're searching and finding information. And you can also create custom fields where you can search for certain things. Maybe you search for compliance, items that haven't been updated, or if it's been modified since last published. There's all sorts of filters, and you can save those filters, which again, it's all about saving time and collaborating with your fellow users. Save that, and then you'll have that search available all the time so you can quickly find content that is critical to you. And those searches are also available for your micro assets, whether it's an image or a glossary term or a video or attached PDF. You can go ahead and search by those same types of filters and save those filters. When you're going to develop content, we talked about the idea of single source of truth. Instead of having multiple courses for each individual language or multiple courses for different target audiences like customer service reps and their levels, you can have a single course to target all of them. That makes it a lot easier to manage and update. And in this case, you can set up those publishing targets. So you organize what are those user groups that make sense in your organization that you want to really customize that experience for, but take advantage of that shared single source. Any individual element, you can simply click on that element, pick a target, and then that information, when it's published, will only show up for that particular audience, whether they self-selected or they pick automatically. Same thing for languages. You can have all the languages in a single course and tag that individual element. Maybe that graphic that we just saw a moment ago wasn't appropriate for a certain language. You can have a different graphic show up for that different language. The other key thing is that ability to reuse the elements. And that is themes. You could reuse your branding, colors, changing the theme changes throughout the entire project. And if it's reused multiple times, then it's going to appear for all different projects. And then you can come in here and also look at publishing profiles. These are, in our case, about 120 different on-off settings for how it navigates, how it works with different LMSs, how the testing works. Does it automatically tag glossary terms? Does it block you from going ahead? These are reusable profiles instead of being stored on someone's desktop or used in just one course that you can set up and use throughout all different courses. And then once you create that, there's project level settings for that course where you can set that publishing profile and it will use those all the time. And if you update the profile, all the courses that use it will have that updated. You also have the idea of master pages, headers and footers, or end screens. You can grab that from another course. If you've set that up, you could choose to copy because maybe you're going to change it as a starter, but you could also share it. That means that master header or footer or copyright in every course. Instead of doing it 5,000 times for 5,000 courses, you can do it once and change that up there. You also have that ability to reuse glossary terms. You have central repositories. We all have terminology. You can see here that it's being used several different times, that particular term. Or maybe you have more compliance and you actually have to have citations, footnotes, and references. That's built into the system, and references can be reused. You don't have to update it multiple times and put it in there. You can pull up variables, and you might have something as a standard compliance term or company name or things that you want to use throughout your courses. You can set that as a global variable and update it once, and then all courses will get that updated. These are just all sorts of different ways you can build into your workflow and take advantage of that. Another case is those role-based permissions. Just because you have that capability, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility, doesn't mean you should have all that. So you want to make sure your system isn't one size fits all, that you have some primary roles like an admin that can control different things or manage users, authors who can create and manage content, but not all content and not all things in your system. And of course, those reviewers who can come in at any time and provide feedback if a review is open, but can't do other things in your system. And with that, you probably also want to be able to customize that interface. And so when you invite someone in, you may want a SME to be able to edit different things. And when they come in, though, you don't want them to be able to have all the capability that you as an author does. So you might invite them in as a limited author. They don't have all the capabilities or permissions to do things. They might have an easier interface. And so let's just take a look at this. If you edit text as an admin or an author, you have a lot of capabilities, probably more than some folks need. Well, if you invite them in as a limited author, an essential author, they're going to have less ribbon toolbar options to start with. And if they edit text, for example, and they double click on it, go to that format tab, they're going to only have the primary views available with that. And so again, that's another way with role-based permissions that you can set up and customize it. And you can customize it even further and set this up by, again, making sure certain people don't have the ability to do something. You can set up permission sets and roles to where you can remove different things. You can remove, set it as a default, expire that, turn it on and off, the types of content they can create. Maybe you don't want them creating certain types of content, or you always want them to use the templates. You can also adjust the different publish settings, whether they can manage glossary terms or just use them. Again, these are all ways that you can set up different types of users to effectively collaborate with you and reduce the chance of them making a mistake just by being confused or doing something that they shouldn't be able to do. You can also, of course, do that for admins. Sometimes you have admins, you don't want them editing content. You can turn that on or off and adjust that as well. The other thing we'd like to take a look at is team assignment. You're not just collaborating probably with two people and once. You can actually set up teams of users and assign them to that team. That's just going to make it that much faster and easier to work with the folks. You can add folks to a team at any time. And if a team already has access to things, then by membership of the team, they're going to get access to that. And so again, very easy to adjust that. You can even have team of teams. Sometimes that makes sense. You can email team members to do those assignments. Another nice thing is you can assign them for the role that makes sense for that project. Maybe this team is really for reviewing it, even though some of them are normally authors, you could assign them as reviewers to that system or that particular project. So again, very flexible. And the idea is so you don't have to repeat and remember who's on the team, forget that there. You can also assign whole libraries of content, departments level with the content to that particular project. And of course, you want to know what's going on with your particular project. So there are insights. If we take a look at the insights here, we have the quick view when you open up a project to what's been edited recently, what are some of the settings for the project, who's assigned to it, if you have a group checklist, what are the things checked off for it, what are the different versions of the course that's been published. If it's in review, how many are open notes, what types of notes are open, recent comments, as well as anything that has been published and taking a look at. So you have all this, you're saying, hey, this is awesome, but I can't convince my boss that it matters. And so let's take a look at building that business case. I think everyone at this call knows that learning matters, but how much does it matter? Found a great research by Deloitte. They found that for every dollar learning spent, it yielded nearly $5 in revenue. That's a pretty powerful thing that you can share with the powers that be as you're looking to improve your tooling, spending the time in the process. If we combine this with the positive effect that improved collaboration and tooling and processes brings to the learning content production team, it's pretty easy to see that these improvements can result in exponential savings for the business. And if we look at a specific example, we can see that these 6 principles aren't abstract, they're practical. Whether it's real-time authoring and centralized updates or permission-based level access, each element's going to remove friction and build alignment across your team. And one of the specific example cases here, there was a software simulation group or software solutions group, and they were able to slash development timelines from half a year to mere weeks. And they reclaimed 90% of the admin hours that have been primarily spent on chasing SCORM uploads in different versions. And with the dynamic publishing and collaboration, they were able to eliminate 90% of that effort. In the second case with Stride, who produces learning for K through 12 organizations, they were able to leapfrog their previous production levels with the same 5 designers now embracing new collaborative processes and tooling. They were able to push out 160 projects per year instead of the usual 40. That's 4 times throughput without even hiring a single new person. And of course, every case isn't going to be equal, and it's hard to see how these savings can stack up for a particular situation, but you can see that it can make an exponential impact. In this particular case, looking at single source design and reuse really enables the team to reduce those content duplications and create that single version of their content and target it for different audiences and delivery formats, which of course also improves your impact. And the Society of Actuaries, which we spoke of before, they trimmed their development on 400 plus courses by 25% after consolidating all the assets in one library. And the team was able to increase the speed without sacrificing any of the quality. In Salient Learning's case, building client-specific content, they were able to cut the total development cycles by 60% through object-level reuse. And for them, this reuse really compounds all their savings. When they customized different modules, they were only customizing 30 to 40% of the module now because they were able to reuse their own proprietary content for 60 to 70% of that customization, which again, automatically was updated throughout their centralized reused repository. And that's where they got that big savings in their development time. And of course, OpenText, which we mentioned and talked about a little bit earlier, they moved from 3 to 6 month cycles to weeks and eliminated about 90% of their post-publishing admin work. Most of this savings came through their embracing of single source design across e-learning and instructor-led modalities and utilizing dynamic publishing. They were able to create a single project update it once, and that's where their huge savings and reduction in development time came from. In the case of Lockheed Martin, for their F-35 program, their multiple teams, again, were able to reduce the time spent on creating content by 55% through that shared single source approach. And again, they were delivering one course that met multiple target audiences instead of 3 or 4 different courses for all those different target audiences. And honestly, sometimes we see these types of improvements and wonder, could this apply to me? But if we look at Lockheed's specific use case, that team was already dealing with highly regulated, high-stakes situation, multiple defense contractors and teams. And that kind of proves that even in those high-stake, highly regulated areas, collaborative improvements can have a tremendous impact. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of changes can impact you? This Ponemon study pegged that the average non-compliance situations hit a cost of $14.8 million, almost triple the $5.5 million it cost to stay ahead of the problem, where everyday content is out of date and the liability meter, of course, for those folks that are highly regulated, keeps running. In a specific use case here, Domino One with Discover Bank was able to combat this problem through improvements in their collaborative process and tooling in both content maintenance and distribution. With dynamic single-click publishing and reuse, they were able to update over 200 micro-learning assets now in minutes, which took days to weeks before, and made sure that their learners were always seeing the new regulations the same day. And of course, for their auditors, they saw a closed exposure window. This is just one of the ways you can turn a compliance situation from a cost center potential risk into a non-issue. Think about taking those next steps. We're going to try to make it as easy as possible for you. And if this sounds like it could possibly apply to you, we have a special opportunity for all attendees today or people watching the recording. To help you apply the principles, we're offering a 30-day quick start plan where you can work with a Domino team member to identify all the areas where collaboration currently occurs and where your team could potentially benefit from improving. Next, we'll confirm those processes and steps, identify any gaps and potential areas for improvement, and then your team can have an extended pilot to test out those potential changes within that one work stream and measure those results over your trial. And then we can review before and after differences and see if this is truly something that can positively impact your team. And of course, we'll help your team get off to a fast start. If you have some existing content with tools like Articulate Rise, our team can actually mass convert that content for you. So you can practice this on real life content of your own and start that collaboration and see what those improvements are. As I mentioned, everything is available in the PDF that we'll be sharing. You can see what you'll have access to. These are all of the different stats and information was gathered from there. And then going to close it out here today. First of all, thank you everyone for attending and listening to this webinar. We appreciate your time. And I really hope this was helpful and gave you some ammunition when you're going and getting approval for changes in your workflow, your processes, or looking to adding in new tooling so you can have efficient and effective collaboration. Close off. If there's any other questions, we'll take a look in the chat. Looks like we did have one question. Can I invite my team to join in? Yes, this is a collaborative tooling. When you reach out to us or follow up with a sales rep, just go ahead and let them know all the names and members of your team, and they can invite everyone into that trial so you can experience that collaborative environment all at once. And even if you want some of those team members to have different permissions, the team can help you set up, the Domino team that can help you set that up and turn on and off different capabilities so you can see how that can actually practically apply for your organization. Thank you very much for attending, and I look forward to hearing from you all in the future.